Hey, Scott Austin here, and in this video, what I'm going to show you how to do is how to bulk add Metafields to a collection. So for this store that I'm building right now, Abstract Rebellion, to start off with, we've got over 500 collections. So I use Postman to bulk upload collections, right? And I'll show you what that looks like here. I have another video on this process, so if you want to do bulk creation of collections, go check that one out. So here was the process I used to do that. I have a bulk create collections, and this one's a little bit different in that there's a collection tag that I'm adding to these, right? So this one has a rule. If we go to the body, you can see that the rule for it is, the product is tagged with a specific field. So what I did is I created a spreadsheet, a CSV file with all 500 and some plus collections with all these fields that I needed. And let's actually show you what that looks like. And that is this spreadsheet right here, where I have the collection name, the collection tag for the rule, and then a collection description. So I did that, and what I wanted to do at the same time was create a meta field for that collection also, right? I can do a collection name, I can do a collection description, and I wanted to do meta field also. In my investigation, and I might be wrong in this, but I found that you can't create a collection and add a meta field to it at the same time because they're different API calls, right? So this API call that we're doing here is smartcollections.json. And I tried some stuff and I searched on the internet and I couldn't find it. So then what I found is, and in the Postman documentation for Shopify, you'll see down here, that's down here, there's a create a new meta field element. And this just shows you a generic meta field. And what, doing some investigation, what I found out is I can create collection meta fields. So that's what I created up here, a collection meta fields creation element. And you can see there, we're putting in the collection and then the meta field. So this is calling a different API, right? Before we were calling the smart collections, that is calling the smart collections JSON, where the create collection meta fields is calling Metafields JSON. So because they're different nodes, this is my guess on the APIs, we can't combine the two. So when you want to create collections, meta fields, what you have to know at that point is the collection ID, right? So what I had to do, so it became a three-step process. Step one, I created all my collections. Step two, I exported all my collections that I just created so that I could get their collection ID. And then step three, I created a spreadsheet for the creation of the meta fields and then uploaded that and ran it. So I'm going to show you steps 2 and 3 here in more detail. So step 2 is once you create all your collections, right? So let me just show you why I'm doing this. So here is my store. We've got hundreds of collections here, 13 pages of them. And then we have these top level nodes. And what we are doing is this meta field that we're setting has one of these items: decor, genre, subject, color, artist, or aspect ratio. Or it could have more than one, right? So if the meta field is set to decor, I want to show it. So I did some custom code here on this page that goes through all the collections. And if the meta field value equals decor, then it shows it here, right? If the meta field value equals genre, then it shows it here. Same thing for subject and color and so forth. So if we go into here they are right here is, let's go to a collection and just show you one of them, right? So we'll go to Zen Art, and you'll see our meta field value down here. I'm calling it tag, and there's genre, and there's all the other ones that we talked about: artist, color, decor, subject, aspect ratio. So I wanted to set that for hundreds of ones, and I could have done it in bulk view, which you just saw a second ago here. Let's go back to our collections, select all, and then edit. Not edit. There's edit right there. All Right? I could have done a bulk edit and one by one, but then I would have to remember which one of these values was the right one for this thing. And that was hard for me to remember across 500 plus collections, and it would take a whole bunch of time to do. Right? So what I did is I did the export like we were just mentioning. So let me show you what that looks like. So here I have get collection Metafields. Right? So this is a get, and you can see we're calling up collections and then the Metafields JSON. And this one is just for a single element. Right? We could also do it in bulk if we wanted to. Where's the bulk? Retrieve a list of all, oh yeah, there we go. Retrieve a list of all smart collections, this one here, right? So this retrieves a list of all smart collections. I set the limit to the max, which is 250, which means I had to run this 3 times to download all of my files or all my collections. But if I run this, you'll see it gives me this JSON file with all this information, right? So here I can see the ID, and I can also see the tag, which is the rule that creates that collection. So here we have the rule being product tags. That's on the product side, not on the collection side, but the product tag is equal to genre Zen, right? And then down here we have this tag Metafield. When it's on purpose, these are the same, genre and genre, right? And that's how I can, on the front end, know that under genre, that's these elements here. Because my Metafield says genre, it's telling me that this collection is defined by the product tag genre in the rules. So what I did is I downloaded this JSON file, so I copied that. Now, I need a CSV to upload, right? So, and what I figured out is that my CSV had to look a certain way. So I'm going to go in and show you my test. So I started, playing with different CSVs and seeing the information that I needed, right? And this was the one where I could create Metafields off of this information. So I started figuring out how to do it. Now, one of the things, that I found was hard to figure out for me, right, in the beginning, was knowing what, type I wanted. Let's just expand this. I knew my namespace and key, right? That was pretty easy to figure out. But I didn't know what the value is supposed to be, because sometimes, the Metafield definition for this is single text string, but multiple of them. So it's an array. It's a list of text strings, right? And I couldn't figure out for the life of me, because the documentation in Postman actually showed the type. It called the type something a little bit different, but I'm going to show you what I figured out anyways, right? So the challenges I was having was figuring out what the type was going to be for the Metafield. And I found in my documentation, it used to be called string, I think, and then after Online Store 2.0 or somewhere along there, they changed that to single line text field. But that wasn't working for me either. So what I did to figure out what do I name these things and what is the format of the value, right? So here you can see we've got an array with the square brackets, but they've got the backslashes before the quote marks, and I forget what they call that. So what I did is I, pulled off the get collection Metafields, and that's how I figured out how to do these things. So I just put in a random collection ID that I knew had a Metafield to it, and I said I want the namespace and key of Jade Puma and tag, and then I ran that. So if I just send this right now, it gives me back, and that's how I figured out, the type of this Metafield that I'm using is this, and the way that I'm going to have to upload it into Shopify through Postman is this way, right? So that's how I figured those things out, because in looking in the API documentation, I couldn't find this level of detail, and that's the format and structure of things. So I just figured let's pull it out from the API, and that'll tell us how we should input it into the API. So I got from Postman we retrieved a list of smart collections. So we got this big long list, right? And then I figured out we could also only ask for certain fields right here. So then I said, well, let's just try ID and title. And then I also wanted this condition here, right? That subject, that's what I want to be the Metafield value. So I wanted to pull that down so I'd have it in the same row of my spreadsheet so I could use that information. So then I put in condition, right? Because that's what this is right here. So let's pull down the condition. And that didn't work for me. Well, it would help if I spelt it properly. So then I run that, and you can see it breaks there. Oh, I got to turn this on. So I turned on just show me these certain fields. And let's also set the limit to be 250. And now we run that. And you see it just gave me ID and title. It didn't give me condition. So then I turned that off and looked at it again and said, well, ID and title, that's at this level. Well, the same thing at that level is rules. So let's try to just pull down the rules. And that ended up working for me. So now this is the ID, which is what I need to upload my Metafield value. This condition will help me know what my Metafield value is going to be that I'm going to upload. And the title, I just have to double check that things are looking the right way, right? So then I've got this JSON file. I need it in CSV format. So I need these in rows, right? What I really need is 3 columns of ID, title, and condition. And then I can do some more processing from there. And I had a hard time finding how to convert that. There's a bunch of online tools that supposedly convert JSON to CSV, but every time I did it, it gave me all this information in one long row, right? That just went on in one cell, which went on forever, not in separate rows. But of all the tools, I actually found one that worked. I tried like 6 of them, I think. And I don't know why this one works and the other ones don't, but it does, right? So here, I'm just going to paste in that JSON, paste, and now I'm going to do JSON to CSV. So this tool is jsonformatter.org, JSON to CSV, right? And now you can see, boom, I've got rows in a CSV, which look beautiful for what I need. So then I took that, and I had to do this. Remember, I did 3 exports to get over the 500 collections I have. This is 250 of them. But I did it 3 times and just put them together into one big file, right? So then open up Excel, paste that in. So then what I did is I said, all right, I need to separate these out into columns. So then I did a text to columns delimited by comma, and that got me to this. So now I got 3 columns. Now I got too much data in here, but then I said, well, I can do this one, and I can do another text to column. And for this one, I'm going to have the delimiter be the pipe right there. Run that. And now I've got this. Remember, I just need the subject, the genre. So then I ran the text to columns one more time. And on this one here, instead of the pipe, I made it the colon. And then I could delete this and delete these. And this gave me enough information. So now I don't know why Excel does this all the time. It drives me nuts. But this, I just want to see the number, because sometimes when you save this as a CSV, it actually saves it like this format. And then when you tried to upload it into Postman or through the API through Postman, it didn't work, right? It said invalid ID because that's not the ID. So what I had to do here was under my format, I had to make it a number. I had to do this before I saved the file because it might save it in that other format. And I saved this and it would work. So in the end, what I came up with is a spreadsheet, a CSV file that looks like this. So let's just expand each of these. So the namespace and tag and the type, those were the same across all of the collections. And then we had the collection ID. Let's see if that's actually saved as a number. It was before. Yeah, it is. Okay. The collection name I actually don't use in the uploading. Like I said, it's just there for me to check and balance. And then I created this format, right? So I just did a little parsing. Remember, I'll actually show you what I did, because what I had from the JSON to CSV is it said this, right? So then what I did is I said, all right, then we're going to make this the title case of that, right? So proper. And then what I did is I put in a square bracket, backslash, quote, and then I put another backslash, quote, square bracket, right? And that is to mimic these here, right? And then what I did is I did another concat and said, I want this, then this, I'm putting commas between them, comma, and then this, end bracket, boom, right? And then I took that, which is right now it's an equation, right? And I copied that, and then I pasted special with just text. So now that is no longer an equation, and that is the text string. That's how I got this text string here, right? Because in that other spreadsheet, from the JSON to CSV, I had this value here. So I had to go through a couple steps in Excel to get that value to the format that I needed to upload it. But then with these, right, so I got namespace, key, type, collection ID, and value. And if we look at our Postman, on our create collection Metafields, we have namespace, key, value, and type, right? And collection ID up here. Now, I had some problems with this also, in that because I work in Shopify and Liquid so often, I'm very used to putting spaces here, right? And I forget which one it's on, but I had spaces like this when I was typing stuff out, and it wasn't working, right? And then I realized that, there's no spaces here, right? So why don't I remove the spaces from here and see what happens? And that was my problem, right? It didn't like the spaces after the curly brackets. So getting rid of the spaces, and I could run it, and then it would run. And then the way we run this, so this one here, right, this is for bulk upload. Now to run it, we have to open up Runner down here, and we want to drag over the create collection Metafields into Runner. Runner's right here. Drag it over. It drags over the whole Abstract Rebellion collection. So I've got to turn off the ones I don't want to do. Like that. I've got to select my file first. And then the first time I ran this, I didn't do any delay. And like every other one of them didn't work. And it's probably because, there's API limits on Shopify. It's like 2 a second or something like that. So then, it ran, and like half of my Metafields were there. Half my collections had the Metafield, and then the other half did not. So then what I did instead is I moved my delay up to 1,000 milliseconds, so 1 a second, right? And this will take 6 minutes to run this. And then I ran it, and it ran totally fine. Now, I'm not going to do that right now, but you can see each one running and it being working okay and all that good stuff. So that in the end, when I was done, trying to get to here, go to my collections list and select all. And none of these had Metafields when I started. And then after I ran it, I've got the Metafield pre-selected on the columns here already. You can see they've got the Metafield values in there. So it ran, it worked, it was wonderful. I was super happy. So I was able to, bulk create over 500 collections, and then add Metafields to over 500 collections using this Postman API process, which, that would have taken me days to do manually. And I was able to do it in a few hours, including the learning curve that it took me to do this. So now what I want to do is just go back here. And on this Create Collections Metafield, I want to show you this in a little bit of detail so that you can, if you want to do this, this is what you want to copy in Postman, right? So you can see here, if we go to the params, There are no parameters, right? For the body, it's got these values here, so you can pause the video, type those out onto yours if you want to do that. And then for test, we're doing a 201 status, so you can see what that looks like there. In settings, there was no settings that I changed, I think. And then you can see up here that this was the URL query for the API. So if you've got this, no params, the body set up this way, and then the test set up this way, it should work for you, or at least give you a good enough starting point where you can get it to work for you, because your configuration may be a little bit different on things like your namespace and that kind of stuff. All right, so hopefully that helps you get started in using Postman to bulk create metafields for collections. Thanks for watching.